FRISCO. Do the Dallas Cowboys need to draft a running back? Need is a tricky word. I don't think it's too much of a homer take to say that this roster, as presently constructed, doesn't really have a glaring need in terms of using the April NFL draft to acquire an instant starter. That's a compliment to the way this roster has been built, largely under the supervision of architect Will McClay, along with the Jones and coach Jason Garrett and staff, but it's also a nod to the reality of Dallas holding just the no. 58 pick in this draft. Are they really going to get a starter at 58? In theory, if a safety like Washington's Taylor Rapp slips to that spot, one could envision him eventually elevating to first-team status. But this roster is in a place now, in part due to the team's successful work in Tier 2 free agency shopping, that allows the Cowboys to stay true to the concept of picking the best player, virtually regardless of position. Oh, it'd be nice to have a repeat of 2018, which saw a trio of rookies. No. 19 overall pick linebacker Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State. No. 50 overall pick guard Connor Williams from Texas Longhorns. And no. 81 overall pick receiver Michael Gallup from Colorado State. Waste little time before becoming starters. But where can Dallas find a starter at 58? A cornerback who is better than Byron Jones or Chidobe Awuzie? An under-tackle who is better than Maliek Collins or Tyrone Crawford? A tight end who immediately beats out Jason Witten and company? Doubtful. So, freed up to look at candidates is best available player, or best available athlete, as I like to call it. So I can say, BA, on the radio. The Cowboys find themselves looking at running back. And among their 30 pre-draft visitors this week, a trio of running backs. Mike Weber of Ohio State is on this visits list. So is Tony Pollard of Memphis. But the jump-out name on the list is an eye-popper as we try to assign deep meaning to his presence. Why was Alabama's Damien Harris here inside the star in FRISCO? Harris is generally considered one of the two best backs in this draft class. I think the Cowboys probably have a second-round grade on him, and if they want him, that's where they'd have to draft him, in the second round, with the top pick they own, by virtue of having traded their first-round pick to Oakland to acquire Amari Cooper, at spot no. 58. Obviously, Harris would not start here. The team's incumbent MVP is the NFL rushing king, Emmitt Smith. But again, no other no. 58 draftee would start, either. So why isn't backup running back, a position of need, just as important as backup safety, or backup defensive tackle? It could be argued, given the contractual issue Dallas faces with Elliott, that drafting his eventual heir is wise. The Cowboys have contractual control of Elliott right now in his fourth season. They can pick up his fifth-year option in 2020 and maintain that control. And while the organization lists him as a priority in regard to giving him a contract extension before all of that goes down, the Cowboys also have that old DeMarco Murray-related policy of not wishing to give a heavy-load star runner that gigantic second contract, all in anticipation of the tread coming off his tires. If Dallas drafts the next Zeke, it gives itself the option of not having to pay the first Zeke. And of course, if Elliott ever decides to hold out his services in protest for not getting an extension, the Cowboys have their heir already in place. Would it be easier, or a better management of assets, to draft Elliott's backup later in this selection process? Maybe. And that's why Pollard and Weber were also visitors this week. But when I think of need versus what the board says, in Dallas, I think back to the Cowboys' 2009 decision to pass on LeSean McCoy. They had a high second-round grade on him. They knew he was going to be special. But they convinced themselves they didn't need a backup running back that high because they already employed Marion Barber III and Felix Jones. 1 year later, Barber rushed for 374 yards in a season and was done here. 3 years later, the Cowboys gave up on Jones. And 11 years later, Shady McCoy remains one of the scariest running backs in the league. And that, in short, is why a team that already employs the great Ezekiel Elliott can think about also employing the potentially great Damien Harris.